principle, using my normal policy of facts only, let's analyze, dissect, and unpack this whole unnecessary big fuss that's going on all over the place. And let's try to debunk what they're trying to put as facts when we all know it's just comedy, poetry, and absolutely bollocks. Those who are trying to accuse government of whatever that they think, they're just behind propaganda, mendacious propaganda for that matter, to confuse and misinform the public and people like you and I. What's this big fuss about the auctioning of fishing quotas? Yes, there is a good number of those who are criticizing who do not really understand what's going on here. Up until yesterday, I came across people so misinformed that they think that the fishing quota like all the fishing quotas are up for auction. Some don't even know what government objective quotas are. And I tell you, there are people who are being easily manipulated and taken advantage of by the enemies of our progress. You know, the type who sit in their chairs and criticize without even offering solutions of any kind. It's not surprising at all, because all they know is to criticize without offering any kind of solution. Now, I've carefully followed and studied the arguments put forward by those who are criticizing government over this whole issue. When government is trying to auction off its portion of the quotas, as always, it's all pageantry, poetry, fear-mongering, and without merit and substance. I'm sorry, even those trying to sue the government don't have a case at all, and they know it. It's like a fear of the unknown. Only that they know what exactly that they are trying to do, and that is to continue paint a negative picture of our government and undermine its efforts. That's ridiculous. Trust me, the argument put forward by those criticizing government, groups such as People's Litigation Center, PLC, AR, and others, over this are opportunistic at best and pathetic at worst. The opportunistic chairperson of the PLC, Matthias Alfiku, said the auctioning of the quotas was a knee-jerk attempt to generate quick money, and at the same time a clear admission of guilt that the government has failed to devise sustainable measures to utilize country's resources in a manner that's beneficial to all Namibians. He even had the nerve to threaten to sue the government over this. Can you believe that? Well, I don't really know this man, whether he's just being ignorant or he's just one of those people who love making beautiful statements to the media, even though when he knows his statements are clearly completely bollocks. It begs the question, how on earth did this man become the chairperson of the PLC? Mr. Afiku, did you know that this whole idea is a product of a high-level panel on the Namibian economy? Do you really need me to tell you that these are experts who worked on this idea for over a year and made a report and recommendations to cabinet? I don't know if you just ignore or simply one of those guys who like to cause unnecessary panic, but I seriously think there needs to be an investigation on how you became chairperson of the PLC. Ever known to be media comments happy, Walfish Bay Constituency Councillor Knowledge Mpinge claimed the auctioning contradicts President Hage's vow of allocating quotas to all the 14 regions to ensure an accelerated and equal development, adding that the auctioning to the highest bidder does not seem to prioritize regional development. Now, do people pay attention or just want to be quoted in newspapers for the fun of it? Mr. Councillor, do you realize that the president made that vow in a view of normality of things? Do you honestly, in your right mind, expect things to be done exactly in the same manner as previously planned, now that we, as a country, have a serious emergency on our hands, which is COVID-19, that no country on earth anticipated? How is government trying to protect its citizens tantamount to selling off the country and not prioritizing those from previously disadvantaged background and job creating? Come on, man. This should be basic knowledge, Mr. Knowledge. We do have a serious crisis on our hands, Mr. Councillor, and you should know better, because your town, Walfish Bay, is ground zero. It was the starting point of the pandemic in this country. Please, Mr. Councillor, if you're starting at ground zero in terms of acquiring knowledge, please go back to the library. Instead of relying on emotion and fear, let's talk facts. The fish quotas government intends to auction are a small fraction that will in no way have an effect on the fishing industry. What part of that don't you understand? Yes, Cabinet has approved in principle the high-level panel on the Namibian Economist Report and recommendation on the Namibian resource utilization, recommending that Namibia establish a sovereign wealth fund, a moratorium on all fishing rights, quotas and mineral licensing, replacing it with a very, very transparent bidding process. Now, it should be noted that a decision was taken to only auction government objective quotas. And we have 3 types of quota allocations: commercial, non-commercial, and reserve. Come on people, this should be basic knowledge. Commercial quotas, as the name suggests, are the ones reserved for allocation to commercial companies for commercial purposes. Non-commercial quotas, also known as government quotas, are the ones that the government use to advance its social, economic, and cultural and other objectives. And finally, the reserve quotas, which many people do not seem to understand. This is the smallest portion of the quotas, and they are reserved for commercial or government objectives depending on the need. Like we now have an unexpected outbreak, and its serious impacts are being felt right now. And this is a way of effectively fighting against COVID-19. Now we all know that in the past, government objective quotas were allocated to Fishco. Now, since Fishco is tainted, has artificial smell all over it, and is now currently a subject of investigation, the government had to find an alternative way to dispose of these quotas. The government devised a better way, which I deem is very transparent. The purpose is to test the market to ascertain the true value of the natural resource that is reserved for governmental objectives. This method also ensures accountability, unlike in the past, allowing the proceeds to be paid directly into the state revenue account to prevent corruption and fraud. This ensures that the proceeds of these quotas are part of the budget which is tabled in Parliament, with a view to enabling legislative to have an overview over the executive. This will also enable the Auditor General to audit the budget as allocated, with a view to prevent further abuse. Please, if you are going to disagree with this, do so without resorting to misinformation, rumors, and propaganda. Inform the public with facts. Don't just come with immature, emotional tantrums and propaganda, because the facts are going to make you look stupid, and the facts are there for everyone to see. I think that it goes without saying that the new method of disposal of government objective quotas has been approved in good faith, and it's not intended to disrupt the normal operations of the sector. This is very important because the commercial, which is responsible for employment creation, and government knows that. That is why it made sure that the commercial sector has the largest chunk or portion, because it directly benefits the Namibian economy through value addition that creates the most employment. Just have a listen to this. For this current fishing season, 95% of hake, 87% of horse mackerel, and 95% of monk has been reserved for commercial, while small percentages, that is 4.3%, 13%, and 5% of these species went for governmental objectives. What more do you want? Is this the case of fear of the unknown, or simply trying to distract government from doing its job? People need to understand that the auctioning of the government objective quotas, which is the smallest portion, is to raise funds to mitigate the effects of COVID-19. If we don't, no matter how much employment we create, the economy is going to suffer, because people are going to get sick and in the end become unproductive. Here is what I also need you to understand. Mitigating the effects of COVID-19 in no way means to only procure medicines and health-related programs, but also for activities such as decongestion of informal settlements, meeting expenses for the roadblocks and related police activities, among others. That's basic knowledge, my friend. Even a kindergartner won't struggle to understand that. A goods rights awarding system regime is the first step towards the effective capture of economic benefits from fishing. And here are my final thoughts. A rights awarding system is the most effective in the context of a clear and regulatory framework with well-defined institutional responsibility and procedures. By improving the method, forgive me if I sound too optimistic, but I truly believe the new auction system is without a doubt going to provide substantial income for the government. Not only that, it will also encourage efficient production operations and a very transparent allocation of rights by putting in place a reliable and most consistent mechanism for keeping track of the harvesting of our marine resources. And transparency is fundamental. This is because transparency is at the core of good practice when it comes to the awarding of fishing rights procedures. The government has made applicants and on a non-discriminatory basis fully aware of the procedures to be followed. It has provided them with access to all available data, and the documentation has provided assurances that proper authority exists for awarding of rights. And with the possible exception of specific technical data, the information was made and is still available in the public domain. Disclosure by the government to the public of the criteria used is a critical step to foster citizen trust and accountability. When going through the process of awarding rights and quotas, the government shall make sure that all bidders have access to the same information. It shall also make sure that the bidding companies are as transparent as possible, including information about who ultimately owns them. Harvesting of our marine resource is a long-term process, and it's in the best interest of government to ensure that it allocated the right quotas to the right players. I personally was too late to apply for fishing rights for commercial purposes a couple of years ago, but I truly believe the new method will limit or eliminate corruption. As we've seen it before in the past, quota allocation process can be rife with corruption that takes the benefit away from the country and places them in the hands of an elite few. But this new method is very strong. It brings transparency and makes it more likely that the rights are allocated based on merit. Even though it's a test, the new method also reflects broader sector, which goes in hand with the government national policy and does not undermine any future deals. When it comes to marine resource management like fisheries, Namibia is ranked 4th in the world. Did you know that? And that's nothing but a fact. And here are a few facts you need to take from this argument. Commercial quotas allocation is still the highest. Local companies and the players in the fishing industry are still allocated overwhelmingly majority in order to sustain the local economy. The small portion up for auctioning meant for government objectives is what was previously given to Fishco. Government just found a more transparent way to allocate quotas. And on top of that, 14% of this portion will exclusively go to the Namibian-owned companies, whereas 60% is open to international competition, but Namibian companies are still free to bid for them. Personally, I feel the biggest risk is illegal fishing that no one seems to be talking about or paying attention to. This is because some companies will buy quotas in order to cover operation on a greater scale that might not be monitored so well. So my advice to government is to provide monitoring and protection mechanism in place to guard against illegal fishing. So in conclusion, I would like to say this to the Namibian people. Stop being pessimistic and let's not work with fairy tales, poetry, because this will have a negative, those with a negative agenda towards our growth as a country are ready to manipulate you with their propaganda and misinformation to make you less productive citizens. If there was indeed a knee-jerk reaction, it was from the opportunistic critics that are trying to derail every good thing the government is trying to do. So if you indeed want what's best for this country, let us give our government a chance to do its job. The Namibian public has entrusted the government with the management and administration of the natural resources of this country. The government is doing the best it possibly can for the benefit of all Namibians now and in the future. Instead of listening to those trying to distract us or misinform us, let us give our government a chance. Let's move forward with the programs meant for the betterment of the people of Namibia. At least, now there's an unprecedented transparency and accountability thanks to the leadership of your President Hage Geingob. Thanks for watching from Windhoek. Stay blessed, stay safe. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel so you get the latest on the Namibian politics, economies, entertainment,